But the story we heard today, this story is such an American Revolution story. What does it take for a man with no kingdom, only a small troop of men who are normally shepherds and farmers and other such workers, to go and defeat the combined army of 4 kings trained in the ways of war and rescue his nephew Lot from certain slavery? This sounds like something George Washington would do, doesn't it? It sounds like the cunning portrayed in the movie The Patriot. Perfect 4th of July story. But what I want us to notice isn't the military prowess, nor even the selfishness of Abram. What I want us to notice is the conundrum in the story. Who told Melchizedek about the God of Abram? Abram is from the land of far, far away, at least 2 countries over by modern measurements. No one else in the promised land, as far as we can tell, has ever heard of the God of Abram. And yet here we have the King of righteousness himself, and he is a priest to the source of all righteousness, the same God as Abram's. This is both surprising and marvelous. Surprising for the reasons I just named. It makes no sense that Melchizedek should know Abram's God, and it's marvelous for the exact same reason. If Melchizedek and Abram, whose people, whose families, whose nations, whose histories have never crossed, know and worship the same God, this means God has been revealed in more ways and experiences than our scriptures have ever recorded. The same pattern shows up with Moses. Moses and the Hebrew people, the only ones known to worship the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob at that time, are living in Egypt. But Moses flees to Midian, where he meets Jethro, a priest who apparently serves the same high God. We have similar experiences with Balaam, with Job, and even with the Ninevites, who may not know their right hands from their left, but know God's voice when they hear it. God proclaims in Amos 9 that he saved the Philistines and other nations just like he saved the Hebrews from Egypt. He has been working in more places than we give credit. And in Acts, Paul finds a statue to an unknown God and says, what you do not yet know and cannot yet name, I will declare to you. And then Paul uses the poetry of the Greeks, poetry clearly written about Zeus and the other Olympians, to show the people how they have experienced already the same God as the Jews and the Christians, even if they have not known the same name. Today, I feel like we forget this truth, that God is revealed in many and mysterious ways. Some Christians have signs that say, we worship God, not Allah. And there are lots of God versus Allah posts online if you look. Yet if you went to a Palestinian Christian and asked them whom they worship, they would say Allah, because Allah is simply the Aramaic word for God. St. Paul worshiped Theos, which is the Greek word for God. Christians in the Western Church from the year 500 to 1500 AD worship Deus, the Latin word for God. Yet Christians in America, when we hear our Muslim siblings praying in Aramaic to Allah, it often offends some Christians' ears because it sounds to us like Zeus or Odin or Ra. On the one hand, it is the same name, the same God, through a different experience, and based on our experience of Christ, maybe a slightly less clear lens, but it's still the same God. On the other hand, suppose for a moment that those Christians are right and that Muslims do truly worship a different God. The same is technically true in St. Paul's day, when he finds them worshiping Zeus and all those others. And yet he finds the words of faith and truth about the one true God in the writings of those who felt they were proclaiming truth about Zeus. He says, those words that you spoke, those are true words. And I want to tell you the truth behind them. We Americans We've always been just a little bit stingy about the truth that we possess. God has given us some great truths, yet we like to think of ourselves as special in such a way that it's to the exclusion of others, that we are the exclusive owners of these truths, which we must protect as in our position as God's favorite. We don't think of ourselves like Abraham, who was blessed to be a blessing, so that all people might be blessed through him. And we've acted this way, this exclusiveness, even with our own people. We have that truth that all people are created equal, and yet women had to fight for the right to be treated as equal as men. We proclaim the truth of a government that is of the people, by the people, for the people, and that this is a higher form of government than any monarchy, oligarchy, or other form of dictatorship you might come across. And yet black people had to fight for the right to be part of our democratic process. We proclaim the truth that this is the land of opportunity where the huddled masses and the tired poor can breathe free air, and yet every generation, new waves of immigrants have to fight for the rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. What if we take a clue from Abraham, who doesn't claim exclusive rights to God, but celebrates when he meets the King of righteousness, recognizing that God works in and through others too? What if we take a clue from Amos that celebrates salvation in all its forms and recognizes the rescuing of people from the hands of evil as the work of God no matter where it happens? What if we take a clue from Paul, who doesn't focus on all the ways the Gentiles have got it wrong, but rather focuses on the ways they've gotten it right? Recognizing that they proclaim the same truth we proclaim, that humans are made in God's image. I've been listening to a podcast about Thomas Jefferson recently. And the truth is, and I've known this for a long time, that he, along with a number of the other founders, were probably deists, people who believed in a God, but not any particular God. Jefferson saw Jesus as a philosopher, not much more. And he edited the Gospels to reduce them to moral teachings that he agreed with about how to live a good life, removing everything else, including all the miracles and the resurrection. Yet when I read words like, all people have been endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, among which are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Or I read words like, we, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty. I hear words that ring with the truth God has been proclaiming since the beginning. We have been endowed by our Creator with the Creator's very image, and with that image, as Genesis 9 makes clear, comes the right to life. We worship the true King of righteousness, and that word righteousness in Hebrew is also justice. They are the same in the Hebrew Scriptures. We people long to establish justice that emulates the righteousness of Christ. Domestic tranquility, well, that sounds a whole lot like peace to me, doesn't it? And God made his home in Jerusalem, the city of peace. And I hear of general welfare, and I think about how God constantly speaks through the prophets, calling for the well-being of the widow, the orphan, and the resident alien, the vulnerable groups in society. We support this nation's call to ensure the welfare of all and weigh how it's doing based on the well-being of our most vulnerable populations. Even if some of the founders, like Jefferson, did not necessarily believe in the specific God revealed to Abraham and revealed in Jesus Christ, the same God was revealed to them, and through them spoke the same truths we speak. What if this is how we as Christians, as followers of the King of Peace, approached all those who are different from us? not looking for what is different or false or broken, but looking for what is true and right and the same? What if we looked not for how others don't fit our definition of human or fail to define right exactly the same way we do, and rather looked for how others are endowed with the image of God drawn on their souls? What if we really believed that everyone was worthy of life and love, and not just worthy, but already given life and love by God? Already in communion with God, even if they may not know the full truth of God's presence in their lives, already being shown a part of the truth Christ has revealed to us fully. How might the world be different if instead of treating everyone that is not like us as somehow so far down the hill that they are likely to be enemies to our King, and rather following the lead of the King who comes down the hill to lift us all up, we started celebrating how far up the hill they've made it, even if it's only an inch, and helping them climb up the hill further until they are able to stand beside the King of righteousness and know the peace and the joy that Christ has given us. What would that world be like? Amen.
Thank you for joining us. Be sure to like if you heard good news and subscribe to stay up to date on the latest message. Peace be with you.